Welcome to the SST Talk, where we talk about all things space, science, and technology.
Here are the episodes for this podcast, so stay tuned. And for our fifth and last episode, we'll dive into material science. So, if your material can't handle space, that's a skill issue.
Hello everyone! For this episode entitled Matter of Fact, we will talk about lunar bakeries and biocomposites, how to build a galaxy. I am Liza with the skeptical, curious friend of mine, Marielle, and our guests for today's episode are nerdy student Jade and our expert John Patrick. Today we are looking at why the future of humanity might depend on things we usually ignore, the lunar dirt and spider silk. Before we kick off the show, we've got to look at the blueprints for today's episode. We are pulling from two heavy hitting studies that basically rewrite the manual on how we build things in the 21st century and beyond.
Exactly. The first paper is a comprehensive overview of lunar in situ research utilization, or ISRU. It's the ultimate guide to living off the land on the moon. It breaks down how we can stop treating moon like a barren rock and start treating it like a resource hub. We're talking about first is oxygen extraction, using electrolysis to literally pull breathable air out of lunar soil. Then second, energy mining, capturing solar power and harvesting water ice from the moon's south pole to create rocket fuel. And lastly, robotic construction, using 3D printing and solar sintering to bake the lunar surface into habitats.
And then, for the second paper, takes us from the dirt to the laboratory with biomaterials for aerospace applications. This is a sustainability deep dive. It argues that the future of flight isn't just about titanium and carbon fiber. It's about biology. It analyzes the nature's engineering, why things like spider silk and bamboo have a mechanical properties that can actually outperform synthetic materials or metals. The green supply chain, how using biocomposites and basalt fibers reduces the carbon footprint of the aerospace industry and makes deep space missions more feasible, and circular systems, the idea that we can grow our spacecraft components rather than just mining them.
So the first paper tells us how to survive once we get there, and the second tells us how to build a better, lighter, and weirder way to travel.
a bit of on a bit of an oversimplification, Mariel, but conceptually spot on. We're diving into two massive shifts in material science today based on some heavy hitting research. One is about ISRU, in situ research utilization on the moon, and the other is about replacing heavy, dirty aerospace metals with suitable biomaterials like bamboo and silk.
So it's the ultimate circular economy move. We're moving away from the bring everything from Earth model of the Apollo era towards a live of the land model.
Which sounds great in a brochure, Jade, but as the resident skeptic, I have to ask, are we actually building skyscrapers out of moon dust, or is this just high-level chemistry fan fiction?
It's very real, Marielle, and the chemistry is actually pretty intense. Let's get into the Lunar Bakery, also known as ISRU.
Okay, let's start with the dirt. The moon is covered in regolith, right? To me, it looks like a gray floor. To a material scientist, what is it actually?
It's a jagged mix of silica, aluminum, iron, and magnesium oxides. But here's the fun part from the paper. Because there's no wind or water on the moon to erode them, the grains are sharp, like tiny shards of glass.
Oh, so that's why the ISRU research is so obsessed with solar sintering. You can just use a shovel in a bucket. The research highlights using concentrated solar energy, basically a giant lenses, to hit the regolith to over 1100 degrees Celsius.
So we're basically using a giant magnifying glass to 3D print a base?
Exactly. You melt the dust into solid layers. But the paper takes it further. It talks about molten salt electrolysis, specifically the FFC Cambridge process.
Huh? FFC Cambridge? Sounds like a fancy rowing club to me.
Close. It's an electrochemical process. You take the regolith, put in a bath of molten calcium chloride, and run a current through it. The oxygen, which makes up about 40% of the weight of the regolith, literally bubbles off. You capture that to breathe.
So how about the waste product? It's pure metal. You get an iron and titanium alloys as a byproduct of making air. You're literally mining the air you breathe.
Yeah, okay, that's actually efficient. But what about the water? The paper mentions the South Pole specifically.
Right. The permanently shadowed regions or the PSRs. I heard it's some of the coldest territory in the solar system. The research mentioned using thermal ones to sublimate ice directly into vapor. And then that vapor is your drinking water. But more importantly, it's your hydrogen fuel. The moon isn't just a base, it's actually a gas station for the rest of the solar system.
Oh, I think that's amazing. Which leads us perfectly into our second paper. This paper on biomaterials for aerospace is wild. It suggests that titanium age might be giving way to the silk age. If we're building on the moon with rocks, how are we getting there? Marielle, you're going to love this because it's all about weight.
Okay, stop. I'm picturing a rocket made of wood and webs. Why shouldn't I be terrified?
Because the strength to weight ratio. The paper highlights the bamboo fibers have a specific strength nearly 6 times that of steel. And silk, it's even crazier. It's not just strong, it's tough.
Wow, and what's the difference between strength and toughness in this context?
Strength is how much weight it can hold. Toughness is how much energy it can absorb before it snaps. Spider silk can stretch significantly and absorb the impact of a flying projectile. In a spacecraft, if a tiny piece of micro debris hit a silk composite hull, the silk acts like a catcher's mitt rather than a brittle piece of glass.
Then we add the micro hierarchy structure of bamboo. The paper explains that bamboo has these internal dampers. During a rocket launch, the vibration is so to shake it's intense enough to shake electronics into pieces. However, bamboo composites naturally soak up those vibrations better than aluminum.
I'll give you the vibration bit. But what about this extreme temperatures? Space isn't exactly a greenhouse, right?
That's where the papers overlap. We can't use just silk. We use basalt fibers. Since we're already processing lunar basalt for ISRU, we can spin it into fibers that are incredibly heat resistant. The paper suggests hybrid composites, a sandwich of bamboo for vibration, silk for impact, and basalt for fire radiation protection.
Oh, so we've got the lunar bakery making bricks and oxygen, and we've got the space garden growing spiral silk hulls. But let's connect the dots. Why is this actually happening now? It is just because it's green, or is there a cold, hard cash reason?
It's 100% the math, Liza. The ISRU paper introduces a concept called the mass payback ratio. Think about it. Every time we send a mission to the moon, 90% of the weight of the rocket is just the fuel needed to push the other 10% of the Earth's gravity. It's incredibly inefficient.
Right. The paper argues that if we sent 1 ton RSU plant to the moon, essentially a robotic 3D printer and an oxygen extractor, that single ton of machinery can produce tens of tons of water, air, and building materials over its lifespan. That's a massive return on investment. You aren't just sending a tool, you're sending a force multiplier.
I get the logic for the moon, but what about the biomaterials back on Earth or in transit? Is a is a bamboo composite really cheaper than a standard carbon fiber?
In the long run, yes. The second paper performs what's called a life cycle assessment or LCA. Traditional aerospace materials like carbon reinforced polymers are a nightmare to recycle. Once a satellite or a rocket stage is done, It's either burned up in the atmosphere or left as a junk.
And the energy cost to manufacture them is astronomical. It's it to make a carbon fiber, you need a massive furnaces running at 1,000 of degrees. To make a bamboo or a spider silk, you need sunlight, CO2, and time. We're talking about low embodied energy. The paper highlights that by switching to biocomposites, the carbon depth of satellite launch drops by nearly 40%.
Who, 40%? That's not just a rounding error. That's a policy shift, but let's talk about the space junk problem. If we use these biomaterials, do they just vanish when we're done?
Exactly. That's the circular part of the circular economy. The papers discusses end of life scenarios. Biocomposites can be designed to be chemically recyclable or even biodegradable or in specific conditions. Imagine a landing strut made of reinforced hemp fiber. Instead of leaving a piece of rusting metal on the lunar surface for a million years, you could potentially break that material down and use the carbon to feed the next generation of spacecrafts.
Well, it's like a ultimate no-trace camping trip, but on a planetary scale.
And don't forget the human factor. The paper mentions that these materials are low toxicity. Working with lunar regolith is dangerous. It's like breathing glass shards. But if we can seal those environments with bioresins and mycelium-based foams, we're creating a soft interior that is much safer for astronauts to live in for 6 to 12 months at a time.
So we're moving away from the tin can aesthetic of the ISS and moving forward something that feels a bit more biological.
Exactly. We're building a techno-biosphere. We're using the rock basalt for the shield and biology, silk and bamboo for the heart of the ship. It's the first time in history where our technology isn't fighting against nature. It's actually mimicking it to survive the most hostile environment we've ever faced.
Oh, so it's a total shift in philosophy. We aren't just conquering space, we're learning how to fit into it. So we've covered lunar bakeries, spiral silk catchers myths for spacecraft, and the fact that the moon is basically a giant frozen gas station. But let's zoom out for a second. If we actually implement these two papers, the ISRU techniques and the bioaerospace shift, what does the human story look like in 50 years?
It's a total shift in our relationship with the environment. For the last century, aerospace has been extractive. We take rare metals from the earth, we forge them with massive amounts of heat and carbon, and we leave them in orbit as junk. These papers are proposing a cooperative model. We are cooperating with the moon's chemistry and nature's biology.
Exactly. Sustainable technological analysis paper emphasizes that we've reached a material ceiling. We can only make titanium so light, we can only make carbon fiber so strong. To go further to Mars and beyond, we have to stop thinking like miners and start thinking like gardeners. We are moving from hard tech era to biotech era.
I admit, at the start of this, I thought the idea of a bamboo rocket was a joke. But looking at the data on vibration damping and the mass payback ratio, it's actually the most hard-headed logical move we have. If it costs $20,000 to send a single kilogram of material to the moon, and you can grow that kilogram in a petri dish or bake it out of the dirt for $200, the economics win every single time, like an investment.
And that's the key. The ISRU paper isn't just a science experiment. It's a blueprint for the first lunar GDP. The moment we can produce our own oxygen and fuel on the moon becomes the gateway to the rest of the solar system. It's no longer a destination, it's a launch pad.
I guess it's a beautiful vision. Instead of a cold, metallic future, we're looking at one that's a bit more organic, a little bit more Earth like, even when we're like 238,000 miles away.
So it's a galactic garden. Liza, we bring the seeds, the moon provides the soil, and the material science provide the tools to put it all together.
Well, on that note, we're going to step out of our lab for today. A massive thank you for our listeners for nerding out with us. If you want to see the actual stress strain, curves of spidal silk, or the chemical equations for the molten salt electrolysis, we have posted both the lunar ISRU overview and the biomaterials analysis in our show notes.
Yeah, seriously, go look at the images of the solar sintered bricks. They look like something out of a sci-fi movie, but they were made with nothing but dust and sunlight. And it is wild.
And keep an eye on the bioaerospace sector. The next time you see a rocket launch, just remember the insulation inside might have been grown in a mushroom farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Matter of Fact.
And wow, finally! That's a wrap on materials science. Because nothing goes to space without surviving extreme conditions first. Thanks for tuning in our last episode. We truly hope you have learned a lot of new stuff as we discuss different research studies. See you soon. Bye.